Hello, everybody, and welcome to the penultimate run here at this Game Over Cancer Marathon. I am the Greenleaf Effect, and I will be your guide today through this three-way race of the Zelda 1 Randomizer. So I know we do say it says the tournament flags on there, but we met a couple of donation incentives, so we're not quite doing the fall 2019 tournament flags. If you do have a randomizer you want to play, the flags that we are doing today are the Consternation flag set with two additional things clicked, and that is Shuffle Enemy Drop Groups and High Dungeon Numbers, and we'll get into those when we are ready to go. But speaking of, we've got MrCab55, we've got Panzerdave, we've got theseawolf1, and I believe they are all ready to go. So I'm going to give you guys a countdown. We're going to go from 5 and on go. You guys go. We'll get this thing started. Ready to go. Alrighty. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. So for those of you who this might be your first time ever seeing Zelda 1 Randomizer, basically this takes the vanilla game and it's going to shake it all up and put things in some different places. Locations have been shuffled. In this case, the start screen has been shuffled, as you can see with starting up there near vanilla level 1. We've got MrCab, who's playing as the Zelda sprite heading down towards vanilla start. Panzerdave is playing as a Christmas sprite. I'll get to that in a second. And Seawolf is playing as the Stalfos. And we did see, as you saw there, a heart container pick up there in vanilla level 1. There are 3 options here. Seawolf picking up the candle, Panzerdave picking up the heart container. Free candles are a thing that are on here. MrCab hitting the jackpot as he has found the wood sword. With the wooden sword here, we do put it in an open cave, so you don't need anything to be able to find it. It's just going to be in one of the many open caves throughout Hyrule. Now, for those of you who may never seen this again, all of these 3 sprites are different. 2 of the 3 sprites that you see on the screen here are ones that you can play in the randomizer itself. The one that you see Panzerdave playing as is a slightly customized version of the normal sprites. But again, the custom sprites that you see are things you can play in the vanilla game. Seawolf over there on your upper right-hand screen just found the large secret, and there are 3 of those here in the game. 82 rupees, not the best large secret, but before we can determine whether or not that large secret is going to be something worth it, we have to see what the price of things are, and we found the medium secret there on MrCab's side. It is also on the very low end. It is only 25 rupees, which in fact is the lowest that the medium secret can be. There are a bunch of medium secrets on the overworld itself, so money is going to be something that's going to probably be at a premium here in this seed, so we'll have to take a look and see how our runners want to play that. As you can also see here, Wizrobes have decided that they do not like being in the dungeons as they have made their way onto the overworld. So that's going to make things very interesting. The overworld is going to be much more dangerous now than the underworld would be. But in turn, that means things in the underworld aren't necessarily going to be as dangerous. Seawolf in your upper right-hand corner has come across our first dungeon of the game, and we don't know what's going on here because there are a couple things. As you notice, the dungeon number is hidden, so we do not know what dungeon we are in. Second of all, you saw a Stalfos drop a bomb. That's not something that normally happens in the vanilla game. So that is where the shuffled enemy drop groups comes into play. So things that would normally drop bombs don't necessarily drop bombs. Here we see a ladder block on Seawolf's side that you just saw. So without a ladder, he is not going to be able to make any progress, at least in that direction. So we're going to see if we can bomb out of this room. And the reason why I say we're going to see here is because one of the things that this Consternation flag set does is it makes shapes. And what I mean by shapes is that the dungeons themselves are generated into new shapes. So when we find a map, you'll be able to figure out exactly what I'm talking about, and it'll be easier to visualize. But until then, just know that we don't know what anything's going to be. Continuing on, we do see MrCab down in the Dead Woods section of our game, and he's going into vanilla level 3. And he does get a little bit of information there. My brother has a heart container on Death Mountain. Now, the hints that the game provides, normally the hints that the game provides here in the vanilla game are not going to do anything for you. I mean, they'll tell you little things, but they're hard to comprehend. Here for the randomizer, we have several different settings as to what the hints could be. We have a community hints section, which you might see some because we have mixed hints. Mixed hints means that some of the hints that you find are going to be helpful, and some of them are going to be the trolley community hints that the Zelda 1 randomizer community has contributed into the game. And they're just fun little statements, the things that you can see. Like you saw the Octorok in that Take-Itty cave say, don't take anything or I'll disappear. So it's going to be little things like that. The overworld getting to Dave and Seawolf again, as the Wizrobes are not playing very nicely in the sandbox. MrCab over here is continuing his trek through this baby blue dungeon and does find a compass. That's actually going to be huge because one of the ways, and one of the easy ways for our runners to tell what dungeon they are in, is to pick up the Triforce and figure out where it goes in the map, because each numbered Triforce on the mini menu has its own special place where it goes, and we'll be able to figure that out. And wherever we are, MrCab has found a heart container. Now, the thing about finding that heart container is Dungeon Heart Shuffle is on. And Dungeon Heart Shuffle means that the hearts that would normally get in the boss pool are moved into everything else. And as you can see here, this is a Shapes dungeon. So we have a game that we like to play in the Zelda 1 Randomizer community, and those of you watching along at home, please go ahead and play that game with me. That game being Name That Ink Blot. So that shape you just saw on MrCab's side, please go ahead and figure out what you think that's going to be. We've got another green dungeon here for MrCab, as Dave is in the same gray dungeon that Seawolf was in earlier where he could not make any progress. Now, one thing I do want to point out to everybody is that dungeon that MrCab was in, that found the map to, more than likely that's going to be one of the earlier dungeons, just based on how small the dungeon itself was. Because as the dungeons get larger in number, they also get larger in size. And MrCab went into that green dungeon, picked up a key, and is going to use that to continue his way on through here to at least figure out where he needs to go. He doesn't have any bombs, so he can't go to the right side of that little cactus L there. But he is going to continue on and get the Triforce out of this. Dave has found a light gray dungeon, and Seawolf has found a bright yellow dungeon. So all three of our runners in different dungeons. So that's going to be very interesting to keep track of all what's going on. Now, the trick you're seeing the Seawolf pull off right there, that is called a block clip, and it is something that is allowed. Basically, the way it works is you do a couple of frame-perfect taps, and you get to not have to kill all the enemies and push a block. Speaking of enemies we're going to have to kill, however, MrCab has found a Patra, which is probably the worst thing to find, especially when you only have a wooden sword. The good thing for him is it is not the Patra that keeps expanding, so this one is a little bit easier to maneuver around. Hopefully he can kill this and get himself a Triforce and figure out where he is. The question in chat, I assume they're all running the same seed. Yes, they are 100% all on the same seed. We do have hashes at the beginning to figure that out. Dave found a hint there saying Aqua Mentis awaits in the Dead Woods. So I'm going to assume that because MrCab is in the Dead Woods, that he, in fact, is in level 1. Now, the reason I can tell you this is because the hints, they're going to directly relate to something about the dungeon. In this case, Aqua Mentis, being the boss of Vanilla level 1 in the Vanilla game, is going to lean towards level 1. Panzerdave has found himself an item in the dungeon he is in, and that is going to be the wooden boomerang. Now, with Dave not having a sword right now, finding a boomerang is huge because he's going to be able to stun enemies and get past them and not have to worry about running into them and then killing him. MrCab has got the Patra up there on his screen down to 3 of the little orbiting Patrites, so this is going to be at least a little bit easier to deal with. Seawolf has come across a leave your money or leave your life or bombs room. In the vanilla game, that's normally a leave your life or money, but we have the option in the randomizer to also be able to take either bombs or keys. So Seawolf went ahead and left a bomb there, so he's only going to have a maximum of 7 left throughout the rest of the game, unless he gets a bomb upgrade. Mr. Cab going to go ahead and pick up this Triforce, which probably going to be level 1. Yep, that is in fact the level 1 Triforce location, so we can confirm that level 1 has a heart container in it, and it is that spot there in the Dead Woods. Dave also in the Dead Woods here. He's going to come across one, and this dungeon that Cab is in fairly quickly. Seawolf continuing his trek through this yellow dungeon here. Let's see what information we can come across here. And to answer the P-Hat, no, I have never been in a Turkish prison. So continuing on, you see there, one of the things that you saw there is the gels that you saw Mr. Cab killing. Normally in the vanilla game, you could kill them just by using the boomerang. As you can see, it took a lot of stabbing there. So one of the other things that is involved in this flag set is the enemy HP and the boss HP has been shuffled to plus or minus 2 HP from their original. So for example, I'm going to use the orange wizrobes that we've been seeing on the overworld. Those normally have 4 HP, so they can have anywhere from 2 to 6 HP in this flag set. Seawolf has found himself a room full of these blue gorillas, and this is a room he's going to be very interested in because this single block room could be a staircase. Mr. Cab has also found a staircase in the room he is in. Seawolf going to be a little disappointed that he took a death in that room because, again, you want staircases, you want to find items. With Mr. Cab here, he has found a staircase that's going to connect him. So, now we're going to take a quick second here to talk about how staircases work. In the vanilla game, the first 4 dungeons, 1, 2, 3, and 4, only have one staircase, and that is the staircase that goes to the item. Well, in this case, level 2 doesn't have any, because 2 only has a floor item. So, if your dungeon has a staircase, you can probably assume that you're going to be in either a level 5, 6, 7, or 8. However, as we saw with that level 1 that Mr. Cab was in and that Dave has just entered, this has a segment in it. And if a dungeon has a segment in it, you are going to need a staircase to be able to get to it. And that is why you will see extra staircases in dungeons with segments. Seawolf has found a fantastic weapon upgrade, and that is going to be the wand. Now, the wand itself is going to do 2 hearts of damage to anything it hits. The beam, there are certain things that are immune to the beam that won't do anything to that. But you can also use the stick of the wand to basically bash people over the head with. So you can basically use the wand like a sword, just the sword beams don't work in that scenario. So that's a fantastic item to find early, because again, it's going to double Seawolf's firepower. Mr. Cap up there on the left-hand side of your screen, you saw him basically put a bomb in front of the Dodongo and just have it walk into the smoke, as Dave has found the heart container in level 1. Now, that hint, that's a hint referencing, Dodongo dislikes smoke. So, if you didn't know about this, in the vanilla game, you have the Dodongo walk into the smoke, and it loses its armor property, so you can stab it with the sword. And every Dodongo you kill like that is automatically going to drop bombs. This is another huge map up on Mr. Cab's side of things, so please, first things first, name that ink blot, as Seawolf has found himself a Triforce up in that bright yellow dungeon. That is a huge dungeon for Mr. Cab, so I'm going to assume it's probably level 6, 7, or 8. Well, there we go. Seawolf has found himself a piece of the Triforce as well. We'll get that to you in a second. So Seawolf over there, that is the location for the Triforce from level 6. So level 6 is where the wand is located. And yes, that is where the wand is located in its vanilla location, or in its vanilla game, but hey, it is what it is. Cab is probably in 7 or 8, considering the size of that map. Now you will notice that Seawolf did go ahead and find level 9. Level 9 is an interesting cat, because even if you have shuffle dungeon numbers, level 9 will always tell you it's level 9. Dave has found himself the stairway to the second part of this level 1, and he's going to attempt to use the boomerang to clip in. You can use any item to do some clipping to that effect, and Dave using the boomerang is just another way to do it. Mr. Cab did find himself another heart container up in the green dungeon, as Seawolf is continuing his trek, and he has also found level 1. So all 3 of our runners have found level 1. Dave has found himself a bomb upgrade, and as you can see, the prices changed, but the amount of bombs necessarily didn't. So the bomb upgrade can be anywhere between 80 and 120 and can give you anywhere between 2 and 6 bombs. MrCab has found a second staircase item here with the power bracelet. That means he is in level 8, because level 8 is going to be the only one of the normal dungeons here that has 2 staircase items. As Seawolf has found the heart container again. Now with this level 8, I do want you, everyone, to take a look at this map and sort of not necessarily commit it to memory, but remember what it generally looks like. Because the way that the shapes algorithm works and the map algorithm works is that levels 7, 8, and 9 share a grid, an 8x8 grid, and levels 7 and 8 share a 16x16 grid, excuse me, and levels 7 and 8 share one 8x8 part of it. So, in theory, you'll be able to slot most of level 7 in around that level 8. Now, the problem, of course, being that's a kind of huge dungeon. So, it's not going to be an exact science, but you certainly could do that. Dave, down on your left-hand side, has come across a couple of things. A second heart container on the ground in level 1, but more importantly, he's found himself the bow. And that is a very important item because without the bow, we cannot fire arrows, and without arrows, we cannot defeat Ganon. So continuing on, Seawolf has made his way to the right-hand side of level 1 and is going to be killing this room full of fires. Both Dave and MrCab are here in this lovely shade of green dungeon, which of course we presume to be level 8. Digdogger gazes close to start. That is a hint telling us that level 5 is going to be close to start. Again, Digdogger being the enemy in the boss in the vanilla game. And MrCab going to go ahead and pick up the Triforce here, which is going to confirm where we are at. As you can see, he is not even going to bother to look because he knows that is level 8. So the thing that's going to be very interesting about this is both Seawolf and Dave have the bow out of that small upper segment of level 1, whereas MrCab does not. So that's something he's going to have to go back and see. We also saw both MrCab and Dave pay the 14 rupees for a hint that told them absolutely no information. Both of our runners here on the left-hand side of your screen, Dave and MrCab, going to go ahead and find level 9. Great information to have later, not something you need right now. And what you just saw MrCab do is he walked in and out of that dungeon. That is a trick we like to refer to as a pirouette, because basically what happens is the underworld and the overworld are kind of basically on the same screen, and you're going to see Dave do the same thing again here in level 6. If you enter and exit, the game thinks that you've entered and exited from the top, so it's going to unlock the door. You get a free key. It's the same trick that you can see in the vanilla Zelda 1 speedrun when you go into level 1. That's where it got the name from the pirouette. So that's something you will see in the vanilla speedrun. As both of our runners here are in this level 6, and both are going to be happy to find the wand in here, because that's going to be a huge weapon upgrade, specifically more for Dave as opposed to Cab, because Dave, as you can see, doesn't have a sword. Now, eventually he will need to find a sword because you do need the sword to be able to kill Ganon. But for the most part, you can make your way through the entire rest of the game without needing a sword. A sword is literally needed to kill Ganon, and that is it. Seawolf up on your upper right has found himself a connecting staircase, and he's going to go ahead and take that and do a little Stalfo shuffle to make his way up to the upper half of this dungeon. Dave has found himself a heart container, getting him up to 7 heart containers, as Cab has decided to pay a bomb. Just as Dave is going to decide to pay a bomb. Nope, Dave has decided, I think I'm better off keeping my hearts and my bombs. I'll find a different way. Seawolf over there is stabbing these poles voice, and you might notice that you see the wood sword and the wand basically coming out and stabbing at the same time. You can do that by frame perfectly tapping both of those, both the A and the B button at the same time. And what that does is it allows you to swing both items at the same time, so you get to deal more damage. You get the damage from the wand and the wood sword, which is 3 hearts worth of damage every hit, as opposed to the 1 from the wooden sword and the 2 from the wand. And Dave has picked up the aforementioned wand in level 6, so he now has much greater firepower to play with. So something interesting that you just saw on Mr. Cab's side. When drop groups are shuffled, there are certain things that can happen. In this case, the red keys from the Vyres are in the enemy drop group. Now, you'll notice that they all kept dropping blue rupees. Because of the nature of how those Vyres work, they don't increment the global kill counter. So whatever they're on for them to drop, if they drop an item, they're just going to continue dropping it. So as you can see, Mr. Cab made a ton of money in that room because the red keys were dropping 5 rupees. Dave down there found himself the map of level 6, that is quite the map, and also got himself a Triforce piece, also out of level 6. So he's got the wand, got the Triforce piece. He's going to move on for right now. He also found the heart container on the ground, so he is good to go. Does not need anything else out of that dungeon. Seawolf went ahead and did pick himself up that piece of the Triforce, which is in fact level 8, confirming what we already knew. He is now going back inside, of course, because there are 2 items to find. Well, 3 technically, with the dungeon hearts being added into the potential pool. Mr. Cap has also found himself the Triforce in level 6. It'll be interesting to see if he goes back in to try and find the staircase item or if he does not. The reason I say that is because normally level 6 is one of the bigger dungeons, and a lot of runners will avoid going back into that once they have found the Triforce, just because it's a pain. So Mr. Cab putting his power bracelet to use as he is going to find the any roads here, starting up in the grave, making his way down to the forest. And this is a fantastic third any road spot. Anytime you can get an easily accessible location and a way to get up into Death Mountain, you are always happy to see it. And having 2 methods into Death Mountain, in this case, one to the west side and one to the east side, is even better. So those are a very good set of any roads that all of our runners are going to be happy to see if they end up getting to that point. Speaking of things our runners are going to be happy to see, Mr. Cab has found that Death Mountain Spectacle Rock is an entrance to something. We're just not sure what. So that was a beautiful kill on that Manhandla, and Manhandla especially can be extremely, extremely trolly, especially when boss HP has been shuffled, because normally each one of the petals has 4 HP, which happens to be the amount of damage that a bomb will do. If there is more than 4 HP, then it'll take the damage but won't die, and sometimes it just decides it wants to kill you. There's nothing you can do about that. So as we continue on, Seawolf is continuing his trek through level 8, as Dave is continuing his trek through Death Mountain, and Mr. Cab is going around in circles as he has found himself a spiral staircase room in this unknown dungeon. So what you just saw Dave do, that's a very interesting thing. So he did what we call a screen scroll, where you can basically perfectly frame tap on pixel 5 or pixel 7. We don't even get too much into the technicalities, and walk off one side of the screen and walk into the other. Now, normally that would just wrap you, but the way the game works is it's going to wrap you from the bottom row to the next one. So if you were to screen wrap on the bottom row of the first row there, it would bring you up to row 2. Since he did it at the very top of the map, the game doesn't know what to do, so it just brings you back to start. It effectively is an up A, it's a soft reset, without actually having to do any of that. So nice little trick by Dave there to get back down to the starting area, so he doesn't have to worry about hitting the up A. Just a fun little trick, something you can show off and do. MrCab and Seawolf continuing their dungeon trek, as MrCab is in a room full of Vyres and BMO statues. Anytime you're in a room with a BMO statue, it's always a pain, because you have to be weary of not just the enemy you're trying to kill, but also the statue itself. And that is going to be the Triforce of this dungeon, so we will know where MrCab is ever so shortly. That dungeon is, in fact, level 4. Because that lower right-hand piece of the Triforce is going to be the level 4 Triforce. So level 4 is going to be up on Death Mountain. So MrCab went and checked the bombable spot next to Spectacle Rock, and now is going to continue his trek through level 4 to find whatever the items in here are. And level 4 tends to be a pretty small dungeon, so it makes sense that he would be in here trying to look around and see what he come up with. Gets locked into a room that is going to have a ladder and decides that discretion is going to be the better part of valor here, and opts to come back to level 4 later. Risky play considering its location, but there are also a couple of very easy ways to get into or back up into Death Mountain. So I don't disagree with that play. I also don't disagree with the play of picking up the blue ring, as you saw MrCab do here. That's effectively going to double his defense, because it's going to take the 7 hearts and basically make it 14, as everything now deals half damage to him. Both Dave and Seawolf are continuing their treks through level 8. Seawolf to find items, Dave to find everything. And Cab, immediately getting rewarded after picking up his pretty white dress, is going to find even more money. And that screen over there to head into this section where level 1 would be is not a pretty screen. Anytime you have a bottleneck like you see there, and anything that can fire projectiles, Lionels, Wizrobes, it's not very fun. So getting there, happy to get the 8th heart, nothing to worry about there. And now that we have the blue ring, we can continue on our merry way. Seawolf and Dave again are continuing to make their way through level 8, as they are basically in roughly the same area. Seawolf basically has discovered the entire map of level 8 without actually having picked up the map, and Dave is just getting himself started. And there is a heart container on the ground for Seawolf. He will happily go gobble that up and take this staircase, which is going to give him yet another heart container. 2 for the price of 1, never a bad deal. So right now, Cab does have the advantage, less so because of the Triforces that he has, and more so because he has the Power Bracelet, which does allow him to explore a little bit more of the map. In this set of flags, it's only an extra 4 screens, but it could be an extra 4 screens that he needs. So far, we haven't seen a dungeon on one of them, but it allows him to do it. And one of the things when it comes to this game is the less backtracking you have to do as a player, the better off you are going to be. And as we have MrCab going into this any road, and Dave and Seawolf going ahead, continuing through level 8, I want to take this time to remind everybody that this is a marathon raising money for the Canadian Cancer Society, and we still have a donation incentive left to go, because after this here, we have got a combo randomizer race of A Link to the Past and Super Metroid, and that means Super Metroid is involved. And as we all know, at the end of Super Metroid, there are some innocently delicious animals, and we want to know, do you want to save the animals, or do you want to kill the animals? So that's the donation incentive going on right now. So if you were planning on donating, you want to do that, go ahead and donate. And in your donation, make sure you let us know whether you want to save or kill the animals. And oh yeah, did I forget to mention, it's also a multi-world? Yeah, so that means, one person's morph ball might be in the other person's turtle rock. Who knows? Anyway, you can watch that later. We are continuing on here with Zelda 1 as Mr. Cab has found himself a dark gray dungeon. This is the dungeon that we saw both Seawolf and Dave in earlier, that without a ladder, you are not going to be making any progress in. So if you are on one side of that fence or the other, if you are on Team Save the Animals or Team Kill the Animals, get your voice heard, make your voice known. Cab going to go ahead and hit the up A and leave this dungeon for now. And if you don't know what I mean when I say up and A, there is a mechanic in the original game where if you pause the game, go to the menu, and hit up and A on the second controller when it's plugged in, you will go to what is the death screen, basically, and you'll death warp without having to die. It's utilized in the randomizer because there are certain times where you might get locked into a room that you have no way of killing. The best example I can give is getting locked into a room with shuttered doors and a Goma being in there without having the bow and arrows to kill a Goma. So we allow the up and A so people don't get soft locked into things. As we now have Dave continuing his way through this level 8, mowing down mummies with brutal efficiency with that wand. Mr. Cab going to go back into a thing he has already discovered, and Seawolf also taking a look around. So now we are at an interesting portion of the run, as Cab nearly got sniped by that blue Wizrobe, is we found a good portion of the dungeons. But we have not discovered all of the dungeons. And now it becomes a thinking process of, do I go back into dungeons I've already done to try and find extra items, ergo Mr. Cabin level 1 with the bow, or do I continue my trek to try and figure out what I'm missing and where things are? And apparently, according to the old man hiding in the rock, he is in fact dead, Jim. But we'll get to that later. Who he is, I don't know. So yes, from what just a quick little recap here for everybody who might just be joining us here or who has been trying to follow along, and without the dungeon numbers it's a little difficult. We have found a total of 6 of our 8 dungeons. We have found levels 1, 4, 6, and 8 for sure. We have also found a gray dungeon over here in the eastern side of Hyrule, which we're not entirely sure what it is. We've also found level 9. Level 9, of course, being at the vanilla level 6 spot. So we know a good portion of where we're going, but we still need to find a couple more dungeons. Speaking of which, we have found another one of those dungeons we are looking for on Mr. Cab's side of the world. And Seawolf has also gone up to Death Mountain. He has found himself level 4. And for those who may be watching, please do not do a double take. We do not have 2 people in the same dungeon. Mr. Cab and Dave are, in fact, in different dungeons. They just happen to have the exact same color scheme. One of the most obnoxious things to have to do in this randomizer is exactly what you saw Cab doing right there, and that is having to kill Pole's voice without the bow and arrow. And we have got a map over there on Mr. Cab's side, so please, for those in chat, do me a favor and name that ink blot. And to answer the question that was posted in chat, yes, in Consternation, boss HP is randomized to plus or minus 2 HP. So you could have good HP, you could have bad HP, it all depends entirely. But yeah, that is quite the ink blot, Jay Leno. I can see that with the chin. Jay Leno is an absolutely fantastic answer for that ink blot where Mr. Cab is. And we do not have a way to push that block because there are wall masters here, so let's continue on and see. Dave, unfortunately, is still blindly wandering around this level 8. I say blindly because he does not have a map yet. Mr. Cab still taking out all of the wall masters. Worst thing for the wall master to drop is what you see there, a clock, because if the clock happens, all enemies stop moving, and if you have not killed all of the wall masters, they will remain in the wall, and you will have no way of fetching them out. So if you're in a room with a shutter door, there's nothing you can do about it. I can also see we also have the answer of somebody fishing as our answer to what that ink blot is, and also a correct answer. So we now have seen Cab is in this room with a staircase. That tells me that we're in level 3. Manhandler threatens by a lake. It's always fun when the game itself tells you the hint for the dungeon that you're in. And I can't necessarily confirm that this is level 3, but I can tell you it's not level 2, because level 2 would not have a staircase in it. And this feels too small to be level 5. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this is level 3. And we do have an ooh. Seawolf has turned into a wonderful purple skeleton as the red ring has been found in level 4. Again, I stand corrected because there was a staircase, so this is not in fact level 3. This is level 5, I guess. Because again, level 3 will not have a connecting staircase unless there is a segment. So wow, that is an extremely small level 5. Unless, of course, it's the level 7 that fits into that crazy level 8. And speaking of crazy levels, that level 4 up on Seawolf's side is something else. So go ahead and name that inkblot up in your upper right-hand corner. Now, we do, as you see, Seawolf did pick up the recorder. So, with the recorder here, the recorder has a little special functionality. Not functionality, but special little Easter egg here in the Zelda 1 randomizer. And that is, there are a bunch of tunes that it could be playing here. So, we kind of randomize them. So, you're not going to get the normal doo-doo-doo-doo-doo when you play the recorder. It's going to get something different. It could be any number of things. But that's something to keep an ear out for, is what is going to be the recorder tune. Speaking of, we also have a heart container drop and a white sword on Mr. Cab's side of things. So the white sword is a fantastic thing to find, because like the wand, it is going to deal 2 HP worth of damage. And Seawolf has discovered, in fact, that he was in level 4 and he found himself a recorder and a red ring in that 4. That is a fantastic level 4. Cab going to go ahead and pick up his Triforce here and going to shortly let us know what dungeon he was just in as soon as he hits the pause button. Wow, that was insane. I say that was insane because that was level 7. Because that upper piece, that's a level 7 Triforce. That was an extremely small level 7 that we found. And as you may have seen on stream, we do have, in fact, a donation here. A $20 donation from KLM1187 that says, "Here is a joke for Mr. Cab. How do you tell the difference between an alligator and a crocodile? You'll see one later and one in a while. Good luck, guys." I'm not going to lie, that pun hurt. And that hurting me, that's saying something. So we have both Cab and Dave here in a wonderfully dull gray dungeon. And let's see what we can find in here. Dave's still meandering on without a sword, which for anyone who may know Panzerdave knows that is not something not to be expected. He and swords have a love-hate relationship. He loves to hate them. So we're just going to continue on there. Seawolf has continued on up into Death Mountain and is going along at a fairly, normal pace, avoiding Lionels, avoiding Wizrobes, and hopefully finding his way around. Mr. Cat continuing through here. A room full of blue keys you're happy to see because those are easy to kill no matter what you have. So Dave has found himself a compass, and we know we're now going to the bottom right corner of whatever we are in. And we do, in fact, have a blue boomerang sighting on the floor in that dungeon. And Dave, being the good boy that he is deciding to leave it right there in that room with the Patra. He already does, in fact, have the the wooden boomerang, so he doesn't need to upgrade because all of the quote-unquote upgrade of the blue boomerang is it just goes farther, and frankly, it doesn't do a lot for you aside from that. Please pay no attention to the clicking you just saw on the screen. I'm going to just attribute that to the fact that someone's cat ran across the keyboard, and we're just going to blame it on the cat. Mr. Cab did go ahead and also pick up the wooden boomerang as well. And he's going to go ahead and grab that and get the Triforce. Dave also going to pick up the Triforce. So both of our runners here picking up the Triforce here at pretty much the exact same time. So as soon as we get a pause here, we'll be able to tell you what Triforce that in fact was. And that is level 3 that we just saw there. Seawolf now also in it, and Seawolf did go ahead and pick up the Triforce out of level 4, so he has that. So that is a candy cane that you just saw Dave pick up. That candy cane is in fact the magical sword, because Dave is using a special Christmas-themed sprite set here, so we don't have the magical sword, we have a magical candy cane. So take that as you will. Now that magical candy cane, aside from being absolutely delicious and teeth-chatteringly sweet, is also going to deal 4 hearts worth of damage to anything that it comes across. And Dave finding a fantastic item here in this room, and that, of course, is the clock. Because without having to have the Pole's voice jumping all around, and you can just sit there and stab them, makes them super easy. Clock against Pole's voice, probably my second favorite room to get a clock in. And then, of course, being any room with blue Wizrobes is the best room to get a clock in. And for those who might be watching live here on Twitch, if you're watching on the YouTube bots, pay no attention to this, but for those of you who are watching who are on Twitch, we did just have some channel points redeemed. So for those who are watching in the back room, making sure cats don't step on anything, we did have somebody redeem 500 channel points to give a Scritchy to the kitty. So please go ahead and do that. go ahead and give the kitty a scritchy for us. So we have finally found ourselves an Armos item over on Mr. Cab's side. Unfortunately, I don't know what it was because he picked it up way too quickly for me to see it. So I am not going to be able to tell you what that is until I see a pause screen. Book is what I'm hearing, so we're going to go with book until I'm told otherwise. And book is actually a very good thing in this flag set, because in this flag set, the book acts as an atlas, which means we're going to know all the maps. And the next question I just got posed in chat is, does Mr. Cab just need the bow? No, well, yes, and silvers, and we do know that ladder is probably needed as well for that gray dungeon that we saw at the very beginning with the Stalfos in the NSU room. So we're looking like ladder, bow, and silvers for Mr. Cab, ladder and silvers for Seawolf and Panzerdave, based on what we know so far. So Mr. Panzerdave has found himself a blue candy cane, which we know is the white sword, and he's opted to, well, leave it on the ground there because he's got the magical candy cane. There is no need for the blue one. And there is the Triforce again for Dave. So he's going to go ahead and pick that up and get the Triforce out of 7. And again, that is an extremely small level 7. I know I say this like I'm in awe, but my mind is just blown at the small size of that level 7. But it does make sense considering the level 8 that we saw and how absolutely crazy huge that level 8 was. So as you can see, Cab did in fact pick up the book from the Armos because we have gone into this dungeon and we have a map. And if your answer is anything other than a bar graph, that is the answer. That is a bar graph. like you can probably say other answers, but it's a bar graph. Clearly, column E2 is the way to go. And since we got the hint that level 5 is close to start, we know that this is level 2. So that's good. Knowing this is level 2 means we know we have to kill a couple of rooms. And that is a huge, huge find for Mr. Cab. That is the ladder. The ladder is going to grant him access to level 5, which we saw needed the ladder. And we also have a red candle, so a super, super great level 2. Basically 4 rooms in, you've got both of the items already, so now it's just a matter of finding where the Triforce is going to be. And again, that ladder is a fantastic find because it is going to open up whenever the item is on the coast, as well as level 5. And what we've seen so far, silvers are still outstanding, so it's entirely possible that the silvers are in that level 5 or they're in level 9. One thing to point out, there are certain flag sets that do allow for important items to be in level 9. And what I mean by important items is the fact that there are certain items that could be required to defeat certain enemies. The Recorder, the Raft, the Ladder, the Power Bracelet, and the Bow. Those are all considered important items because between them, you can either need them to access a dungeon or need them to defeat certain enemies. So in this flag set, the important items are not allowed to be in level 9. So we know for a fact that the Raft, while still outstanding, is going to be in one of the dungeons that is not level 9. So that can help your thought process when trying to figure out, do I want to skip a couple of things and try out to find the silver arrows in level 9, or do I want to go back and dig? So just something to keep in mind. Because again, right now, the only thing that we, as the watching audience, do not know where it is that we could need to kill to beat the game is, in fact, those aforementioned silver arrows, because we know that the bow was in 1, the Recorder was in 4, in case we needed to kill any stray Dig Doggers. And we do have the Triforce here in level 2 for Mr. Cab, so he is a Triforce in level 5 away from having access to level 9, but still needs to go ahead and pick himself up the bow, which we know is back in level 1. Dave has made his way up to Death Mountain, and he has found himself level 4, but is going to go ahead and check the open cave to the left before perusing into the depths of level 4, what would normally be the snake in vanilla, but clearly not a snake here. Seawolf has found himself level 2, so he's going to come across the ladder here very shortly, as Mr. Cab has found the ladder heart, which we don't know if that's the one that stays in the ladder or if it's been shuffled, but we're just going to assume that it has in fact been shuffled, just to make things a little more fun. Seawolf going to be disappointed to find the map in the room that he is in, and Cab is going to head in up A because he has now realized, I know where I have to go. I have to go to level 5. And we'll be able to pass into level 5. Now that we have the ladder, we can continue on through level 5, and that is certainly a level 5. Go ahead, everybody watching at home, and name that ink blot for me, please, and thank you. Best suggestions may or may not get a shout out on stream. We'll see. We'll see what they are. But the interesting thing here, as we come across Darknuts, Mr. Cab has a very easy way of fighting the Darknuts here, as considering Darknuts are heavy, armored individuals, they can't cross the water. So you can just sit there on the ladder and stab at the Darknuts, and they really can't do anything to you. Again, Seawolf has found the staircase into the one random section of level 2 that's got nothing to do, and he decided, hey, there's nothing there that I need. So he now knows where he needs to go to get the Triforce, and he's going to be taking care of that. Dave has found himself the compass here in level 4, and he's going to be able to pick up that Triforce. But, you know, going to go ahead and find items. So this is a point where it's very interesting to see which strategy pays off more. We've had the strategy of both Dave and Seawolf, who both decided that sticking around dungeons to find items was the better option, and they were rewarded with the bow out of 1, the red ring out of 4, and also the recorder here that Dave's going to find. The interesting thing about that is it's also put them a little bit far behind on Triforces, as Seawolf has picked up the Triforce out of level 2. So that's a good thing. Now, Mr. Cab was not able to get the bow out of 1 because he was bomb blocked from getting to it at the time, but it's still an interesting strategy to figure out. And in a flag set like this, where Heart Shuffle is on, and you know you have to start killing rooms to find items in addition to ones on the stairs, it becomes a game of what are you willing to risk? How much, are you willing to risk when it comes to taking a gamble on where items are and are not? And it goes back to what I was talking about earlier with the important items. We know in this case that the bow, considered an important item, cannot be in level 9, which after Mr. Cab gets the Triforce out of level 5, he will know that the bow can't be in there. So the question then becomes, which dungeon do you choose to go and explore first? And if you're Mr. Cab, I don't know what the answer is, what's going through your head. I know if it's me, I'm going into level 1 first because it's small. I've explored most of it, so it's only a small section of where I need to go. That's what I'm doing. But every runner will have their own ideas about how they want to do that. As Seawolf has gone ahead and picked up his ladder from level 2, Dave has now got himself a recorder, which is going to make travel a lot easier. He needs to find 2 to get the ladder out of there so he can go and explore level 5. So as we have got Seawolf exploring around to try and find some more things, and Dave being whisked away in the whimsical winds of the recorder, Mr. Cab is still exploring this level 5, trying to desperately find not just these silver arrows, but also a bow and a Triforce. Again, I do want to remind everybody, of course, that we are here. We are raising money for the Canadian Cancer Society. We're having fun playing video games while we do it. So, I mean, there's all of that. Dave is back in level 8 again for the third, fourth, something like that time. Anyway, this level 8 is huge, as you just saw from the mini-map. If Dave ever does find a map, you will see it again. It is fantastically large. Speaking of things that are fantastic, that white sword screen that Seawolf is on right now is also absolutely fantastic. I am glad I don't have to worry about it, because Wizrobes and Lionels on that screen is absolutely disgusting. Mr. Cab putting that red candle and the sword beams to use to kill those red land molas in this great pattern room. Now you saw him push that block there because we do have second quest staircases on. And for those who might not know what a second quest staircase would entail here, basically, just take a look at blocks. If a block is in the middle row, like you see here with these two, like he's standing under, if it's in the middle row, it can probably be pushed. And if it's going to be in the middle row, it's going to be the leftmost block that is going to be the one that will push for a staircase. As we do have found, I can words good, I promise. We have found the raft here in level 5. So with that, I am pretty much willing to bet that that your silvers are going to be in 9. There's one item left outstanding. That's the floor item here in level 5 that we have not seen yet. As Seawolf can, we do just see it right now. It is the magical key. So yeah, silver arrows are in fact going to be in level 9. Any key is a great thing to find. We'll get to that in a minute, but Seawolf, with his 12 hearts, not able to pick up the magical sword, which means the 13 that Dave had is going to be it. As Dave comes across his power bracelet, Cab has got his last piece of the Triforce. So now, again, Cab's still without the bow, so he's going to have to figure out which dungeons he wants to go back into to figure out whether or not where the bow is hiding. Seawolf on your right-hand side has discovered level 7, tiny as it may be. And yeah, when I say tiny, that is an 18-room level 7, which is ridiculously small. Although, unlike Dave and Cab, who both went in here without arrows, Seawolf does in fact have wood arrows and a bow. So as you can see, he made extremely short work of those Pole's Voice using just a couple of arrows. And the reason that the arrows are going to kill the Pole's Voice like that is because in the Japanese game on the Famicom, the controller had a microphone, which you could scream into to kill Pole's Voice. Well, that doesn't have any... The Nintendo doesn't have that, so they had to give the American audiences a cheap way to kill them. So Cab has bombed his way in, and he is going to find himself a bow. So that means he is now going to be, has to make a choice here. Is he going to go to other dungeons, because he doesn't know what's in level 4, for example, or is he going to just go ahead and dig level 9? Based on the way he's been playing, I would think he's probably going to go to level 9 after he finishes exploring the rest of this one. He's going to finish exploring this one, of course, just to try and see if the silvers are here. Because if you go to level 9 and silvers are here in 1, you're going to feel really, really bad about it. But anyway, once we get to level 1, we're going to be listening and looking for a couple of things. We in the Zelda 1 randomized community refer to what we're looking for as a roar and a door. And what I mean by that is a roar in the sense of Ganon is a loud little piggy, as Seawolf has found his Triforce in level 7. Ganon is a loud little piggy who likes to let everybody know where he likes to hang out. So if you are in a room that is any of the 4 cardinal directions adjacent to Ganon, you are going to hear him loudly roar. So you know he is around you. That's the roar part of a roar and a door. Now the door part is interesting because That varies depending on whether or not Ganon is alive or Ganon is dead. If Ganon is dead, then we're looking for a door that opens up with enemies in the room. If Ganon is alive, we're looking for a door that doesn't open after the enemies are dead. In both instances, you found Zelda. Or, in the case of Dave, you found Zelda. In the case of Mr. Cab, Zelda is going through Hyrule and she's going to be rescuing Link. And in the case of Seawolf, well, that's a surprise I'm going to wait for you all to see. And we have turned out that Mr. Cab does appear to be going back into dungeons to dig for silver arrows and has not decided to go to level 9. So that is very, very interesting. But since we now have the book, go ahead and name this ink blot, because this is certainly something special here. It is very much a nice moon shape. Dave has gotten the Triforce out of level 2, as well as a ladder, which means he can continue on into level 5. Seawolf is here continuing in level 7, looking for items in here. We know that level 7 contains the white sword and a heart container, so nothing too crazy in there. Seawolf now has made his way up into the section of level 7 that does contain both of the items. So he's going to go ahead and make, again, very short work of the pulse voice, utilizing the bow to continue on and figure that out. He's found himself a heart container there. Dave getting super lucky, getting a clock in that room with the blue darkness. You are never sad to see a clock in a room with blue darkness. Again, I prefer them in pulse voice or Wizrobe rooms, but again, the only room you're disappointed to see a clock in is, of course, a Wallmaster room. Dave, unfortunately, taking a lovely spinny little death there, as Mr. Cab has found himself the blue boomerang and is going to make sad honking noises as he up and A's away from the blue boomerang. Seawolf finding himself a white sword, not the item he was hoping to get in that level 7, but happy to find it nonetheless. Mr. Cab is decided, I'm done with dungeon diving. I'm not going to delve back into the depths of that dulcetly yellow level 4. He is going into level 9, which we, as the viewing audience, know is the correct play. There is, in fact, going to be some silver arrows in level 9. Speaking of level 9, first of all, that is an absolute mess of a map, but there it is. There we go. Now, there are going to be a grand total of 14 staircases in level 9. 6 of them will connect to each other to form pairs. The other two will be the 2 outstanding items. So that is what we are looking for in level 9. Again, we're listening for Ganon. Well, you are going to be listening for Ganon. I don't have the sound on, because if I did, I'd just be hearing myself going back echo. So I'm going to be counting on you all in chat to let me know when we hear that big old piggy roar. And also, this level 9 is starting out to be very, very interesting, as it's being very linear and forcing us to go in through this staircase to make progress. Well, we have heard that, so apparently chat is telling me that we have heard it already, so it is by that stair room, which means we know it's not to the room to the left of the stairs. It's either to the south of the stairs or to the north of the stairs. So, based on the way Mr. Cab was bombing and being figured that out, but an easy to find Ganon. That is actually a very good thing, because with an easy to find Ganon, especially one that close, once we find the silver arrows, we can do one of 2 things. We can opt to A, immediately up an A back to the start of the dungeon and just go after Ganon, or B, continue to try and find a path to Zelda. I personally am a fan of, I know where Ganon is. As soon as I get the silver arrows, I am up Aing back to him. I'm going to kill him, so I immediately can just walk into a room and know, hey, that door opened, that is Zelda. So Mr. Cab has now gone through 2 of our 6 staircase pairs. So we have gotten rid of, as I said, 4 of our 14 total staircases here in this level 9. Now, the way it always feels like it works is when you go into level 9 and you don't need items, the first 2 staircases you find always have items. But when you go into level 9 and you're looking for items, you never find the item staircases. You always find the ones that are going to be transports. I'm not saying that's entirely true. I'm just saying that's what it feels like. One of the things we could potentially be looking for here in level 9 is a compass. The compass, of course, will directly lead us to Zelda's room, which takes a lot of the guesswork out of where to go. Speaking of things that are going to take some guesswork out of, level 9 has 3 rooms with old men who could potentially give you a hint. The problem is, I said potentially. Of course, we've got the mixed hints option on here, so they could give you a hint, or they could give you a truly piece of information. If they give you a hint, there is one of 4 hints that they could give you. The general section of the dungeon where the beast awaits, the beast referring to the final boss you're going to fight. The general section of the dungeon where the kidnapped awaits, the general who you're going to rescue. The general section, or not general section, but what enemy group guards the compass, and whether or not these silver arrows are going to be found in level 9 or elsewhere. So when I say the general section, in this case, southwest of Skull, that's a very, very good hint for Mr. Cab, because he now knows he made the correct choice in coming to level 9. Now, when it says southwest, think of level 9 as a full grid, a 16 or an 8x8 grid, 64 squares. Right? Just think of it that way. And then you take all of that and cut it up into neat little 4x4 sections. Each of those 4x4 sections in the southwest, the northwest, the northeast, and the southeast, that's what it's referring to as Dave has found the Triforce in level 5. So that's what it's referring to when it says northwest, southwest, northeast, southeast. It's basically giving you a quadrant. So now Mr. Cab has 2 of the 3 pieces to the puzzle, and that is where Ganon is located and where the silver arrows are, generally speaking. Now the question is, where is the princess? Or in this case, Link, because he's playing as Zelda. So that is where we're going to go. This is a fantastic thing to find here for Mr. Cab. It is a spiral staircase. It is in the southwest corner. Unfortunately, it is not the staircase he is looking for. But understanding that you know you're looking for the southwest, then you know you want to stay in this general area first. Because once you have what you're looking for in the silvers, you know where Ganon is at. Finding Zelda becomes a little bit easier. Now, one thing to keep in mind here, Mr. Cab does have the advantage of digging into level 9 first, but he does not have the recorder, unlike Dave and Seawolf. So we've seen a couple of dig doggers here in this level 9. So we know that there's a possibility that they could block something. And if Dig Dogger blocks the way to the silver arrows or the way to Zelda, Mr. Cab is going to have to go back into dungeons to find that recorder. So that is something you want to maintain awareness of. And I know as a runner, I walk into a dungeon to level 9 and I see Dig Doggers and my heart goes into my throat a little bit because you don't want to see that. What we do want to see is rooms like this one with Mr. Cab, because this is a staircase room. It's in the southwest as well. Seawolf getting a fantastic clock there in that Dark Nut room. We have seen several people get clocks in that Dark Nut room. Both Dave and Mr. Cab in the same room at the same time. Is this going to be our winner? No, it is not. We are going to continue our looking. The difference between, again, Cab and Dave here is Cab knows he needs to stay in this section of the dungeon. Dave does not. Dave has found himself another potential staircase room, so let's see if this is where we need to go. And you should have taken the left turn at Spectacle Rock, but we know that left nowhere. And there it is, Dave being the first of our runners to find these silver arrows. Cab going to be right behind him. So now we know where Ganon is. We know Ganon is to the north of that first staircase room that we took. The problem is, we don't necessarily know how to get there. So now that is the catch. How do we get to Ganon? Mr. Cab, hoping that you can bomb up to Ganon here in this room, or maybe thinking he has to go down. Unfortunately, we know that down isn't going to be the call here. So Cab, opting to try and go to find Ganon the quick way, finds out that it's not going to necessarily be as quick as he wants it. Dave, on the other hand, may have found himself a way to get there, and here is something very interesting. There's a Dig Dogger. A Dig Dogger is a thing. Now, you don't need to be able to kill the Dig Dogger to get into that that staircase, and yeah. So now the trick is going to be, we need to figure out how to get to Ganon. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, everybody, but when Dave killed that Dig Dogger, I don't think the door opened. I could be wrong, but I don't think I saw the door open. But now the question becomes, again, how do we get to Ganon? We know where Ganon is. Mr. Cab seems to be on the right path to try and get there. Has to kill this Darknet, push the door to get that block open, and he has made his way to the upper section there. So Tektites guard the compass, so that is good. It's always nice to see something easy like that that's going to be guarding the compass. So Mr. Cab has made his way over to the eastern side of the dungeon, so it looks like we'll be getting our way to Ganon shortly. Dave coming in hot, pretty much right behind him there. The question's going to be, does Dave make it over to the right-hand side of the dungeon? Cab has found himself Ganon. Dave is right behind him, making his way. The difference now being, Dave does in fact know where Zelda is, if we have done this correctly. So this Ganon room, not the best Ganon room in the world. It is made easier with the ladder here, but you're going to see Mr. Cab head down here to a little safety spot section. Ganon, as you might notice here, is going to rotate around the room in his invisible pattern, but he is invisible and he does a figure 8. So you know eventually he'll make his way back down to you. Once you stab him like that, there is a 50% chance that he ends up going to the right-hand side. Mr. Cab going to pick up his Triforce of Power as Dave enters into the room. So now it becomes a case of, there is Zelda, we didn't find him, Ganon guarded Zelda, so Cab gonna come in and find Zelda immediately. We were wrong about the Dig Dogger. Wow, 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 that is incredible. Dave gonna go ahead and pick up right where he left off as well, and he is immediately gonna find Zelda. That is a fantastic finish. Absolutely insane finish there between both Dave and Cab. Cab with the early lead going into 9. Dave with a fast and furious comeback. That was what? Less than 30 seconds between the two of them. That was absolutely incredible. Seawolf making his way into level 9 as we speak. So he is going to be able to go ahead and figure out that, hey, this is a pretty linear level 9, all things considered. He now knows where Ganon is as well. It's just a matter of finding where those silver arrows are if you are Seawolf. Yeah, so for those who are wondering, Panzerdave does have a Christmas texture pack in his Zelda, so he is running the Christmas pack, and as you saw, Mr. Cab as Zelda saved Link. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to work on getting at least Mr. Cab and Panzerdave in here to talk about that seed, because let's be honest, that seed was a little insane. So, Mr. Cab.
Yo.
That was kind of crazy.
That was fun.
You two finished within 30 seconds of each other.
I see. I'm looking at the Discord channel here.
Yeah.
And I saw him say done right after I did. Sort of.
Oh, man. That was with me going around, like, 100%ing every dungeon, so...
4 is the only dungeon I have no items out of. And I don't have the second item in 9.
I can tell you what they all are. I've got them all written down.
What am I missing? What am I? I'm missing
Red
the
ring and
wand.
recorder.
And I'm missing the wand, the red ring, and the recorder.
I have.
Wand is in 6, red ring is in 4, recorder is in 4, heart container is the second item in 9.
Yep.
Oh, I mismarked 6 then. Because I had 2 hearts out of 6.
I realized I poo-pooed 6. Well, I knew I had 6 when I found the wand and how big it was.
Yeah. Speaking of, can we talk for a second about that tiny 18-room level 7?
I know, right? I had that, like, I don't know if anybody was watching me, but I wrote it down as level 5 immediately.
Oh,
I came out and I looked at the map and I had to pause and say, like, what is this? What is this level?
Well, you went into it, and we already got the hint that 5 was close to start. So I'm like, oh, that's level 3 based on the size of it. So I'm sitting there, oh, it's level 3, blah, blah, blah. And then you pause, like, no, that was level 7.
What was that?
Oh. It was a nightmare because I went back to level 8 because I was still missing. I
did 8 very early.
My ladder was the last item I needed, and then I dug 5 because I didn't want to leave silvers in there.
I dug out 3. Once I found the ladder, I went back to 5, dug 5. Then I went to 3. Well, I went to 1 to get the bow. Then I went to 3 and get the scrap metal. So I saw it and immediately up an 8 because I knew it was near an any road that would get me to 9.
My first sword was magical, so...
Naturally.
Yep. Yeah. Although, he did find the wand super early, so...
Yeah.
That's when you do that.
Well, no, I took the candle over the sword before I even found the wand, so...
Oh, wow.
I always... It's a showcase, you know? It just shows that you don't need to have a sword for everything. Yeah, it's one of my few prides that I take in this game that I can maneuver very well with just bombs and a wand, or bombs and a candle and, like, a yellow boomerang.
I did make sure to get the boomerang when I saw it. Both boomerangs were in 3 then.
Yep. And I was more than happy to pick up the yellow one and leave the blue one.
Same.
That blue banana is just awful when you're trying to throw things.
I was really mad when I went back in. I went into 8 and I found the key. And I went back into 1 because I knew there was a locked door between me and the Triforce. And I walk in that room, and there's Patra.
I was so happy because I came back in after I picked up the wand. So I was like, oh, well, I guess it's a good thing I have this.
How long did it take me to take down that Patra with a wood sword? Like an hour? I did the rest of the seed in 11 minutes and 41 seconds.
Wow, we finished that up fast, actually, all things considered.
Yeah, this was actually pretty fast. Like, I have a lot of overworld not explored.
Tempest Mask, he's playing as a Stalthos. The Skelly Bros. Yeah, my overworld exploration, I thought I did really good, and then if I had managed to find 2 fast, ooh, I think I'd been done about 5 or 6 minutes sooner, just because I still have like about 10 to 12 screens unchecked.
It's 2 is the last dungeon I found. I have... Ugh. I didn't go into the bottom left corner of the woods, so those 2, the lake, the other lakes, top corner.
Basically, the middle of Hyrule is where I'm missing stuff.
I think I have 17 screens unchecked, most in northwest Hyrule, the Lost Hills area, and then, you know, the raft and the recorder spots.
I hope I gave TG a lot to talk about because I was doing some funky stuff.
If this was a 30-second gap, I'm now really glad I saw the raft and at that point knew I didn't need it.
Oh, I knew I didn't need it from 5 just because it was my last dungeon.
Yeah, that was... I forget if 5... Yeah, 5 was the last dungeon I actually needed to clear.
The ladder block was just fantastic.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was really... I was worried because I did not have the Armos item yet. And
I died on this book screen and saw it was a book and was happy I died.
I was like running all over the place, like, oh god, I'm gonna get the Armos item. It's gonna be like the ladder, and then the bow's gonna be on the coast, and I'm gonna feel like an idiot.
Yeah. Oh no, there was definitely a lot to talk about here in this seed. I don't know if I covered all of it, but I did my absolute best. Oh, also, Cab, you'll have to go back and watch because there was a donation with a dad joke in your name.
Yo, nice.
Nice. No, I was doing left side Death Mountain. Wanted to go back to start, so I scrolled off the screen.
Yeah. That was. I definitely talked about that. I'm like, that was fantastic.
It's like I
That's
don't
the
know.
thing. Fasted did that last night.
I was just like, nah, we want to keep our health. I'm very happy with how I played. This was a fun seed.
Yeah, no,
minus
this was a very fun seed. Very interesting seed.
Minus that bow and one.
Yeah.
Why? You had it super early. What's the problem?
Shenanigans. Oh, and how about that early Ganon roar and then have to
Yeah.
move your way all the
But
way
did we
around
all
that dumb dungeon?
immediately up A and go into that room and say like, oh.
Yeah. Well, how about the fact that Ganon guarded Zelda?
Oh, I was saying Fred.
Yeah. Real quick though, over on our upper right-hand screen, Seawolf has in fact found himself some silver arrows. Now he just has to make his way back over to that crazy little right side with Ganon.
Yeah, I slightly cheated in my 9 because instead of going the normal path, I block clipped around a intersection room and just walked my way down. Good lord. Some of those levels were just like painful to go through just because it was like in 5, if you went up to the left like I did, you found nothing.
I didn't have a map or a book at the time, so I was like, well, I guess there's a dead end here. Might as well see what's in that room by the start. Oh, hey, there's a triangle.
Yeah, any key
Well, no, that was 3, but whatever.
Yeah, I found that dead end, and I found the compass.
If only we had dungeon numbers.
I only messed up 7. And
I think we all messed up 7 though with the size of it.
No, there's the heart container in 9.
Yep. Found that one. This is the path that I took.
So I think it's either this room that he's about to go into or it's the room below it is a hint. I think it's below this room. There's a hint that says the silver's in the southwest. And at that point, I knew where Ganon was. I knew which quadrant the silver was in. Which is really good because I'm just like staring at my no items in level 4 the whole time I was in 9.
The red ring helped me a lot. I was able to just start running my face into everything.
This game has a red ring?
Mhm.
Wow.
I know.
Yes, you bought the pretty blue dress though.
I
Or
did.
white dress as it were.
Stay true to the orange and blue.
We do not condone being a Mets fan.
I'm the proud new owner of a blue ring.
I almost bought one, and then I just ended up buying bomb upgrade.
Oh, that was the it was in 8, I think, or 6. It was in one of the dungeons, and I'm vaguely aware, like I don't know the specifics, but with shuffle drop groups on, like something weird happens with the split Vires and split Zulls, and you can. So like I was very intentionally farming those Vire split bat keys for 5 rupees.
They don't increment the global kill counter. So if they get to the drop section, whatever they're dropping, they're just going to continually drop it.
Yeah, and Stalfa's dropping bombs was very nice.
I got no bomb drops for like the first 15 minutes of this seed, it felt like.
Yeah, you were bomb light.
And then like it took so many Stalfos kills to get a second bomb. Like the first Stalfos I killed was with a bomb. And so I was going for like the next dungeon and a half just thinking, did I accidentally force a bomb?
No. And that overworld was not fun. I'll say
Wizard Robes on an overworld equals terrible overworld.
I enjoyed it.
Oh, yeah, I mean...
Nobody asked you.
You got to suffer. You got to watch us suffer. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. Thank you guys so much for having us, because this is a fun game to show off.
And thanks, TGE, for getting behind the mic.
Always happy to, because like Dave said, this is a fantastic randomizer to show off. And this seed was fantastic as well.
Couldn't ask for a better show-off race. I'm gonna
Good.
go get dinner because I'm hungry. So y'all have a great evening.
Go get dinner. Thanks for the race.
Save some for the rest of us.
Sure.
See, Seawolf has got himself a little bit turned around here, trying to figure out how he needs to get to the right side of level 9. He pretty much knows that's where he's got to be, considering he's got the entire left side mapped out.
Oh no.
Yeah, oh no, indeed. Also, the fun part here, Cab, is they know Seawolf's playing as a Stalfos. They don't know who he's fighting and rescuing yet.
Oh.
We're going to save that as a surprise.
Okay.
And I will say that it is technically a special Stalfos sprite here a little bit, because normally what happens when you play as an enemy is Link's sprite will get shuffled into the enemy. So I, for example, when I play as a Wizrobe. So I play as a Wizrobe gliding around, and the Wizrobes in my seed are orange and red Links. So there's gonna be, again, there's the little surprise coming your way. I hope you all are ready for it. Again, if you've seen it before and you know what's gonna happen,
There's the hint.
let the people. Yeah. There's the hint that I bet you were happy to see.
That's a word.
Yes, happy is a word. You're not wrong.
It was definitely that level of happiness. Oh my goodness. Oh hey, there's a map in this dungeon.
There is a map in this dungeon.
Did he not write down that there was a way down from staircase 2, or did he never take staircase 2?
I don't know.
That's fair.
Yeah, I wasn't mapping.
Yeah, finding Ganon in 9 is always painful, especially when you only have that one door out of there.
Yeah, that's a rough location.
This was terrible too, because I go into level 9, and I paid both muggers with a bomb capacity, and I was just like, oh no, I just opened level 9 by using 5 bombs. What's going on?
What's happening? No.
My only weakness.
Yeah, so right now the situation that Seawolf is in is the unfortunate situation that I never did get a chance to talk about going into 9, because we found the super early Ganon and then the Silver's hint. But level 9 a lot of times becomes a game of resource management, and the any key mitigates a lot of that resource management, but not all of it. As you can see, bombs is still a resource, and it is being the absolute pain here. So that's the issue that we're running into. And I've seen enough Zelda 1 randomizer races in tournaments come down to who better manages their resources. There are a couple I can think of off the top of my head. We don't need to go into them, but there are a lot of resource management things that can happen. And this is a situation when you're in a situation like we're in here, with the drop groups having been shuffled, you don't necessarily know off the top of your head what drops bombs. So you're just hoping to get lucky and hit a bomb dropper. So that's a scenario here. So at this point, it's a matter of, where are the bombs? What's going to drop me a bomb? Am I going to get a bomb dropped for me?
Does he need a bomb?
I don't know if he needs a bomb or not. He might. Well, there's the compass.
Oh, that's
Hey,
what that was.
Tactites guard the compass.
That's true. Is he at the top of column 6? Yeah, I was nowhere near. Yeah, I mean, we know where Ganon is, though. Now he knows where Zelda is. I don't know if he was looking for Zelda's room or not, but The roar of Ganon's down there. You just got to get that way.
Yeah, and then, it's just a matter of just getting yourself over there. Did you bomb or did you staircase?
This staircase, that room he's in right now, is staircase 2. So you can go staircase 1 to staircase 2, which is the room after the Dig Dogger.
Yeah. But this is the room he needs to go into and move left and move right anyway. So.
Yeah, he needs to go to the right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there were any bombs involved.
I don't think there might have been one to get down from here. That's about it. Nope, we're good. Okay, no bombs are going to be needed here. So again, ladies and gentlemen, coming up here in a minute as he's finally found the bombs, we are going to see what the Stalfos is going to fight and rescue, and I hope you are prepared for this. Because, well, we're not fighting Ganon. We're fighting Zelda.
Oh, no.
I remember when the sprites first got introduced, and we did it on the first restream, and everyone lost their mind when the first giant Zelda showed up. It was great. But in addition to that, we fight Zelda, so of course, we must rescue Ganon.
We've got the Red Skelly now.
We do have Red Skelly. Of course we've got Red Skelly. Chaos returns to Hyrule. The return of Ganon with Red Skelly. Also, as the frozen screen says, F. Please F in the chat for the return of Ganon, everybody.
Oh, no. Shoutouts to Tech.
Yep. Shoutouts to Tech absolutely for the fantastic timing on that. So, Seawolf, I need to ask you the same question that I asked Cab and Dave.
Fire away.
How about that 18 room level 7, huh?
Yeah, I have 5 instead left. I'm like, this can't possibly be 5. No, this can't possibly be 7. It's gotta be 5. Gotta be 5.
Yep.
And then walked out, opened up the map. I guess that's a 7.
Yeah, I thought it was 3.
Is that really 7?
Yeah. I had to go back in and scout around, like, are we sure it's the 7?
Yeah. I had to double check my Triforce. I'm like, did I look at that right?
Yeah, same thing. I was just like, all right. I mean, it would have been weird if I found it earlier. I was like second last clear, so when it was like I went like, oh, level 1 was great. Then walked out level 7. Wait, what? Excuse me?
Yeah.